Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary and Ronald's Records. Make sure to click the link below and go check them out. Guarantee you're going to like them. With that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
What's up, y'all? It's Maurice.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do, give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Most definitely. For going back to the beginning, my dad used to work in production, DJing when he was younger.
Okay.
My mom was always in the church choir. Mm-hmm. So very much, me saying hip hop artists, R&B artists, it was all right there. My dad had the biggest CD and cassette collection ever.
Okay.
And, there's always music in the house. And when I ever, I play around and play with toys with my siblings and stuff too, but I also was the one kid that would go sit in my dad's room with the headset on and just be putting in CDs, putting in cassettes, taking them out, and stuff like that. That was my whole childhood. And then one day he had a keyboard and I started messing around with that. And I was humming the tune to Joy to the World. Mm-hmm. And I was that's when I realized that what you sing is just a note and what's on the keyboard is just a note. And I hum until I found it, and then finger by finger, find the whole melody. And so I've been obsessed with music ever since. And
so you were figuring it out by ear, super. How old were you when that happened?
Let me see. We lived in Illinois on Air Force Base, so I had to be 6 or 7.
You were I was young,
little bitty.
Damn, and you found so you found a way to make a piano useful right from the get-go. Damn, that is super lucky because my dad tried to make me learn piano when I was super young and I hated it.
Dude, yeah, it's one of those things where I love it because it's so literal. You can literally hum and find what you're humming if you tap around enough.
Yeah.
But also I never had traditional piano lessons, so I couldn't go play a Beethoven.
No.
But I absolutely know how to hear a song. Okay, it's in this key. I know that much. So yeah, right there from the beginning. Just
that's awesome. Music. That's cool. And then I guess you said your mom was in choir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she was always in the church choir since she was a kid. And
gotcha. So it's
it's right there.
Standing, yeah.
And there was always gospel music in the house. Mm-hmm. So singing was a thing. My older sister, she's probably my favorite singer because she's got that big, soulful kind of voice, whereas I'm kind of more of a smooth singer.
Yeah, very much so.
But regardless, you put us together, it's gonna sound great,
Damn, no, we should have got her on the show. No, but that's awesome. And it's cool that it's all in the family kind of thing.
Yeah.
And is your extended family very musical as well, or are y'all the main ones?
I say it's mostly us, but there's definitely a couple cousins and uncles and stuff in between that have some and do some things too. Yeah.
And did you move around a lot because of Air Force?
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
It actually was kind of fortunate. My mom and my dad, they split up when I think it was second grade or something like that. Mm-hmm. And my dad, he stayed in Illinois. And then my mom, where she got she was in a whatever her position was, she got orders to the same 3 bases a couple times.
Oh.
So even though we moved a lot, I kept most of my childhood friends because I'd see them again in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, oh, we're moving, but then like I would literally see them again. So it was really cool actually, because now I feel like I have a couple places that are home.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you were like worldly traveled, but you didn't feel like you lost all the people.
Yeah.
That's actually a really interesting dynamic.
Really cool.
Also, I imagine you got to experience different musics.
Absolutely.
In like all the different places.
The one thing I picked up on that like still to this day is really interesting to note is how things are, like where things are popular at when they start, as opposed to like when they pop off somewhere else.
Yeah. So like you had heard about it in one place and then you go to another place.
They don't even know what
they're already, or you've never heard of it before. So you're either that guy in the know or like that guy that's like last to know.
Yeah. They literally have been in both places.
Man.
So it's just crazy how just moving around different parts of just this country, you see how different it is.
Yeah. That is really cool. I'm going to have to dig into that more with people that move around to see how they experience music in different places.
It's crazy, man.
That's a fun take. But we do have a couple foundation questions we check in with everybody on. So we're going to knock those out right now.
For sure.
This first one is one we ask early. It's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
My own money. Okay, I'm not blanking on the albums because it's like there are 2 of them that I got around the same time. I'm trying to remember which one I got first.
You could say both. Well, that's fine.
So they were either Confessions by Usher.
Okay.
Or I want to say her album was the same name as the single, but JoJo, whatever album the Get Out song was on. I remember that one specifically because I remember wanting to get it at the store. And my mom was like, do something like chores or something. Like, earn it. Like, I'm not just going to buy you this. Do something for it. But I really wanted that album. So it was one of those 2. And those are 2 of my foundations of like what made me want to actually do this. Yeah.
I was going to say, I can definitely hear a lot of that in the music that you've done.
Yeah. So that's very big on like that, the bringing over the soulful stuff, but putting it together with like that smooth R&B sound.
Yeah.
Very much there. So
hell yeah. I mean, those are both quality options.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what was the first live show you ever went to that was like one you wanted to go to? So like you saw it was happening, got tickets, went to it.
That I went to on my own, or like that I was like, I want to go to, was my favorite artist right now, which is Eric Bellinger. And that was just a couple years ago. Before that, I've been to shows, but they were kind of like this person was here because I was something else.
Gotcha.
I think the first concert I actually ever went to was a Plies concert.
Huh.
Yeah. And it was because he was at the racetrack in Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay.
And down in Montgomery, Alabama, there's not a whole bunch to do, but the racetrack is always popping.
Yeah.
There's always drag races. There's always like rappers from the South always come through there, spend some money and rap a little bit.
Yep.
So that was one of the first show I actually went to, was a Plies show.
Damn. That's a name I haven't heard in a minute.
Right?
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, you've definitely been around it for a while then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah. And then before we get into more of what you do in the present day, do you have a defining moment where you wanted to take music more seriously?
Yeah, I do. I will say, like most of my life, it's always seemed cool. I think the first moment I had where I was like, I want to actually make songs was when I was 9. That's when I started writing songs. I used to always just like sing covers of it or whatever. When I was 9, I started trying to write. And then that was kind of like my first taste of it. And then, because it's kind of like a stairway up. Because after that, as time went on, I think like around like 12, 13, I started doing like voice recordings. And that was my first like, playing on the keyboard, putting a song together. I know I wanted to do it, but it still wasn't like, it was kind of like a hobby thing.
Yeah.
And then if you shoot up to my freshman year of college, that was the first like, okay, we're actually going to try to do this. When I got to college, I met my best friend who actually just moved here last year.
Oh, exciting.
But we met each other, and we had another roommate too, who his dad and him were making a record label. And they were like, we're looking for talent. And so we went to go to that label. It was like an indie label. It wasn't anything huge, but they were doing the biggest that anybody else was doing.
It was just this little, Def Jam you heard of. No.
It was not for real, but in the city, it was the biggest thing that was happening at the time.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool for us to be able to get around those artists, because as much as we did our own separate things, like in our dorm, in our closet, whatever, some of these dudes had been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
No matter what level of success they had hit, they at least knew what it was.
Put in the practice.
Yeah. They knew what it was like to be on a stage, to go around, be in front of people, and look like you know what you're doing. And so that was kind of really the beginning for me, was being in a space where they're like, hey, we want you to make this kind of song. And I'm like, oh, okay. Let me see. And it really was like the beginning stages of why I feel comfortable now. Now, we'll say just one more point onto that. Through that time up until now, I wasn't necessarily the most sure in myself as an artist, because I went back and forth a lot between feeling like, okay, I really want to sing, but I feel like I'm okay at singing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it's easier for me to just rap, but then like I do singing more naturally, that kind of thing. And the pandemic is actually when all of this stuff got really laser focused for me, and I really found my sound. And I started doing the work for the things I felt insecure in. So as far as like singing, I've always been able to hold a note. Like I said, I grew up around it, to do it, but I felt like I was lacking something somewhere. And so for only 2 months during the pandemic, I was paying for a vocal coach. And she just showed me foundational things. It was nothing that was crazy that she had me doing. It was just like little tricks and tips.
Well, you were already familiar, so I imagine that you were just kind of putting like understanding to like concepts you'd already imagined.
I needed positioning. You know what I mean? I was in the ballpark somewhere, but she could notice if I was trying to do like a certain kind of note.
Yeah.
She could tell what I was doing wrong, that kind of thing. And so that fine-tuned me to where, a couple years roll by, or a year roll by after the pandemic is over, I'm recording like some of the best stuff I've ever made. I've already feel like my pen is strong because I've been writing forever. Yeah. That I never doubted. And so now, here we are now, I feel like the full artist, whereas it doesn't matter where you put me at, I can write for whoever, whatever genre. Yeah. The only thing that I felt like I was lacking was the confidence in my vocal. And so, I say the pandemic was the defining, like, now you're the whole thing. Yeah. Whatever you were trying to accomplish, this is it. Now get to work. Okay. And so, interesting. Now, current life, we're getting to work. That's where we are now.
Oh yeah, no, I love that. I mean, it still always bums me out when I hear about the pandemic, just because that's where my band fell apart. I feel you, man. Interesting how many people have like found their strength in it. And I mean, I guess I technically got into photography during that, which led to this eventually. So like, it all roads lead to the end. But that's really cool. Yeah. Now let's go ahead and let's get on into you in the present day, and we're gonna get a super easy one out of the way. How'd you pick the name?
So throughout the current times, like within the last couple of years, I was actually going by a different stage name, which was MJ the Kid. You can find music under that name.
Oh, I've got a couple notes about it. Don't worry.
Okay, for sure. So that was the name that I had. It was I go by MJ or Mo, depending on when you met me in life, but I'll answer to either. And so that was kind of like the name that, I don't know, it felt cool at the time. And there's like also like wordplay within it, because like the THA is like I spelled it that way because those 3 letters are in my last name actually.
Oh, so okay.
Everything I do is a little unnecessarily like funny or whatever.
It's just got a bit of continuity in it somewhere. Yeah, I appreciate that.
But I came up with the Maurice, which is just a play on my first name, which is Maurice. But that was about a year or 2 ago. I was on vacation visiting my family, and I was telling my mom and my brother and sister, I was like, I just kind of want something different. Because like when I get booked for shows, I feel like they always just stick me with like a bunch of like either like trap rappers.
Yeah, because the Kid is, especially when it's the THA, like that. Yeah. There is a small handful of artists that already have that attached. Yeah. It's kind of like when you have Lil in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it wasn't like something I hated so much, but it just became a thing where, it was kind of nice at first to be like okay, I'm about to slow it down for y'all. Yeah. Until like that was my thing at every show. I was like, this is getting annoying. And it also was, it was making me not get on the playlist I wanted to get on with my music.
Yeah.
People would see the name and just kind of be like, I said, send this.
Yeah, exactly.
It would just brush me off. And so,
that, and you probably weren't even finding like your audience per se, because everybody else was there for other people. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where I was like, I need to do something. And I don't want it to be crazy. I still want it to sound like me. And then I came up with a few different names with Mo in it. Mm-hmm. But that one I landed on because I think I said it out loud. And my mom was kind of like, I like it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's basically your name.
You know what I mean? Like, she was like, that shit ain't. So Mo apostrophe Reese, that's where we're at now. And I love it. It's real simple. People call me Mo at work already. Mm-hmm. So people meet me in the music industry, I'm Mo because that's my other job too. So I'm Mo everywhere.
Yeah. And even if they say your full name, they're like your full artist name, it's just your full first name. So you're always going to be able to respond to it.
It's always going to be me.
Okay. Hey, I dig that for sure.
And see, that's another one of those like doing the play on something.
Yeah, hey. I mean, sometimes easy is best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think it's always crazy when people like go super abstract with their name. It's like, it's got 4 Q's in it.
Right.
Like, they're all silent. Like,
They're all silent.
Okay, cool. I mean, I appreciate the approaches, but I could dig that for sure. But now let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing process.
Yeah.
And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning. So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music. Mm-hmm. How do you go about getting a track started?
For sure. So another thing, like I said, like, hip hop, artists, R&B, I'm also a producer too. Mm-hmm. So I make majority of my own beats.
Oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, this last year is the first time I've done so much music on other people's beats, mm-hmm. because that whole starting out point was me starting to do music. What I ran into is like wanting to do music and not having like beats for yourself.
Yeah.
It's expensive because people...
Or you're going to rip stuff off of YouTube. And then you're like,
we're all doing that.
Yeah.
But it was, the other thing was like, I want to make my own songs. But, you start working with people and they be like, okay, cool, I need like $200, $300.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm 18.
Yeah. I
don't have $200, $300. I don't have you know what I mean? Like, and that was the thing. So I just really started cracking down on like trying to get good at beats. And I will say that's another thing that I didn't realize that I had gotten really decent at until recently, because that best friend I was telling you about, we're working on a joint project right now. That's Flex Out Super, by the way. Shout out to my boy Flex. We were just listening to some of the stuff I produced for him, for me, over the last couple of years, mm-hmm. and like he would be playing other songs, and I was like, "Did I make that beat too?" He's like, "Yeah, that was you." And so it's just a lot of like just fire tested stuff. Like it definitely, when I listen to, I still have my first laptop that I ever produced on, mm-hmm. and I listen to beats sometimes, and I'm like, dude, this is so trash. But the journey, man. Yeah. It's cool to look back and see where I started and to see what I can do now. But anyway, sorry, I got kind of off track there. But the songwriting process for me, mm-hmm. There's a couple ways I go about it. So I mentioned that because sometimes I'll produce the music first, mm-hmm. And then the lyrics come after. Sometimes I catch the lyrics in my head listening to something else. So, and that would happen to me more often, where I'll be listening to a song and it's just like the vibe or the bounce is just so like it's getting to me.
Yeah.
I can't turn it off and just move on. I have to write something to it. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily to the key that it's in, to whatever's making my head do this.
Yeah.
So whatever, if it's that tempo that I'm hearing, then I'll write something to it. And then sometimes that'll sit on my notes until I hear another beat or I make another beat, and then they match up. And then, I also have gotten into the space of writing for other people as well. Mm-hmm. And so in that space, it's really just a matter of like, I'm really good at people giving me a concept and taking it and making it grow.
Now, just to clarify, do you mean like writing parts that you perform for other people, or like writing stuff for other people to perform?
Both.
Okay.
So I'll write, I think actually, you have a shirt on now. Shout out to Briggsy.
Yeah, shout out Briggsy.
When he came on, he was saying we're working on a project. So I do have a couple of like vocals on that project, mm-hmm. but it's mostly just us, him coming with the concept of the vibe of what we want to do.
Yeah.
And then me, him, and a couple other guys, we'll get together and, we'll lay down the blueprint, and then we maybe walk something back, like, let's say this here instead, or let's do this melody, things like that.
Yeah, so just kind of like workshop it.
Yeah. And it's all together in that space. So it really depends on where it is. But for me, my songwriting is very much like however it hits me. Mm-hmm. So if the words come first, then the words come first, and we'll find the music later. And there's sometimes where I think of a whole song in my head. And so there's days where I'll get off work and I get home and I'm like, I can't talk to anybody right now. Don't call me, don't text me, because I need to get this out of my head, because there's a whole freaking song just sitting in my head. I need to produce everything. I need to write it down. I need to lay down whatever. And so, yeah, it just depends on the day, really.
No, I dig that. Yeah. Real quick, just a quick technical question. What program do you use to produce? So
I move between FL, and then Universal Audio has their own DAW called Luna. And I don't know if people know about it, but I love Luna because it's literally like a love child between Pro Tools and Logic.
Interesting.
So it's really easy to use if you've used either of those before. Even the shortcuts are pretty similar. And I just like Universal Audio in general. I have like the interface and everything too. Yeah, that's
Samesies.
So I love UA.
Yeah.
But their DAW is actually pretty freaking good. So
good to know.
I recommend if anybody get a chance to play around with it, it's pretty good. And they do updates on it pretty like regularly. And it'll tell you as soon as you open up the software, it's like, hey, we got a new update if you want to fix this, and this. So
okay, well, that's cool. That's good to know.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an Ableton household, but we are okay with other DAWs.
Listen. I want to get on Ableton. I haven't had a chance to like sit around and mess around with it yet, but most of my favorite producers produce on Ableton.
I won't dig into it too much because that's like I'll run away on this.
Yeah, another time.
I do appreciate that Ableton is very malleable. It's like it can do a million things or it can do two things.
Yeah.
Like if you only want to do a couple things, like I almost do it exclusively in the track run view versus the clip view. It's like my favorite.
Yeah.
But like I came from Logic. Like I used Logic 8 and 9. Like forever. And then the computer I was using crashed, and when I updated, I couldn't run 9 anymore. And so I didn't want to move to 10, and I got Ableton for free through work. So I just like went that route instead and never looked back. But I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you use. Like my keyboard player loved like FL up until like I got them over to Ableton as well. So like the like you could do anything with anything at the end of the day.
I always look at every DAW or like any plugin or software is just like an extension of you.
Exactly.
If you know how to know how to use it, you can make it do what you want to do.
I mean, I've heard people make cool stuff with Reason.
Same. Yeah.
And that that is like, I don't know, it's not Reaper at least, but like I feel like it's kind of just another FL with a different approach.
There was a guy I went to school with in Florida. We were in the same like audio engineering program, and he produced specifically on Reason, and I'd never seen anybody else use it. But he's gotten placements and stuff off there and everything. Like it's like I said,
there are certain sounds you can only make in Reason.
Yeah, and
I think that a lot of people don't like understand like its Rack's ability and like the stuff that it's got like just buried in it. But again, that's neither here nor there. We'll make a whole nother episode.
Yeah, we can nerd on that another time.
But let's get back into it. So once you get a track finished writing, it doesn't have to be like recorded and released per se. But once it's finished writing, how long does it usually take you to get comfortable enough to perform it?
You mean like perform it like live?
Yeah.
It really just depends on the type of song for me and how it's hitting me, hearing it back to myself, like how I laid it when I was writing the demo to it. So, for instance, I think I did I've been doing like a show or two every month since January. There's 2 songs that I've made in that time span that have just been a part of my set rotation. And it's just because they just have the energy that I feel like match the season. So it's like they have that summery, get people out the seat, make them move a little bit. And so it really just depends on like that. If it feels like it's relevant during that time, then it's going to be easier for me to get up and go perform. But usually it's just a matter of that. Like if I feel like it's going to be something that's going to help, I'm going to just take it and play it back on loop a few times and just get used to my own lyrics. Because that is funny because I did in January I did a random EP, just surprise, like no reason, and I did visualizers for it maybe like that same week. And I barely knew any of the words to the songs. And so, I cut the parts that I could use for like reels and stuff like that made sense. And there's other parts I was like, okay, we can just use these like stills as like photo shoots or whatever. But those I weren't performing during that time. I kind of was just like working or whatever. But now that I've been more consistently on stage, anything I make, if I feel like it's going to be added to the rotation, I'm taking it with me to work. I'm listening to it so I can get it down. So pretty quick.
Okay.
It's pretty quick.
I dig that. And I mean, I was checking out your music for sure. And I mean, you got, under the current name, you got music that goes back to 2023. And under MJ the Kid, you have it going back to 2022, at least on Spotify.
Yeah.
And I really, really dig your sound. I mean, first of all, it's like I've gotten a lot of people that are like, oh, I do hip hop and R&B. And it's like, it's always hip hop with like a dash in the chorus of R&B.
Yeah.
But like your sound feels like it truly lives in this like R&B realm, which feels really like comfortable. Like I enjoy that person. That's what I grew up a lot on. So like for me, I was like, that felt really cool to like kind of hear it full on. A lot of singing, a lot of music, a lot of notes, and the beats felt very consistent. So I kind of assumed that you had produced them as well.
Yeah.
Just because they all kind of lived in that realm. And I mean, I usually do this bit where I pick out, a track to talk about. I had to go to the MJ the Kid for this one.
Okay.
And I picked two.
I'm ready for it.
First one was, and it's off the album 90s Baby, which is available there. And the first one I picked was All That.
Hey.
I mean, the beat, it was just so good.
Yeah.
And there's this synth bass that you use in a lot of the album, but that's kind of like one of the earlier moments where it shows up like full on, and it just hit. Like I am a bass player, so like I'm always looking at that. But there was just something about that. I mean, like you were killing it on that track. But the one that I leaned to for the vocals was My Rules.
Hey,
because just oh man, when you hit that falsetto early on during the DMs line, that was just, and you never let off the gas on that track. Like you were just given 110%. It carried all the way through, even though the beat was like simpler comparatively.
Definitely
you just had all of the room to like run with it, and just from beginning to end, you were just nailing it the whole time.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, but I mean, like your new music is also really fun. It was almost more hard for me to pick one from there.
Yeah,
and so I just went back to 90s Baby because like that just had the kind of a wider breadth of things to use.
Yeah.
And just it's all good. It's all consistently good, which is really impressive. And after hearing some of your story, it makes a lot of sense. But I am definitely curious to know, what is one of your favorite tracks to perform?
All That is up there for a couple of reasons. One, it's like one of the most comfortable in my range, but I also do a decent amount of like, runs and stuff in there to make it fun for the audience. I think right now it's one of my unreleased songs, and it's called Active. And there's going to I have multiple versions of that song. So when I've been performing is with my friend, my brother, Flexo Superb. We have a version. And then Magic 9, who's also popping around here in Portland doing her thing. We have a version of the song together too.
Oh, nice.
And so it's a whole thing because I made it by myself months ago. Like I think this was like maybe... I want to say it was the beginning of the year, and I was just sitting on it, and I was like, this song is like a hit. Like, people are going to like this song. And I was like, but I need like somebody else on it.
Yeah.
And it needs to pop off or whatever. And so I heard Magic on it at first because I wanted some woman, some female energy, some feminine, like,
Yeah.
And I wanted that to be a part of it. But then Flex heard the song, and he was like, okay, I know you already had an idea for me, but hear me out. And his hear me out turned into this crazy verse. And he killed it. And I was like, okay, now I want to make this a whole thing. So right now I'm in the process of making like a single rollout for it with all the versions, and getting visuals and all that. But that's the one I love to perform right now because it's called Active, and when we perform it, people get active.
Hell yeah, I love that.
It's hella fun.
This is all technical stuff again, but for the release, are you going to do like a 3-tracked version? Like
kind of what I want to do. Like how they used to.
Oh hell yeah!
When they released the singles.
Yeah.
Kind of what I want to do.
There's like the slowed down version. There's the, like this edit, that edit.
That's exactly.
That. I mean, I think that's a bit of a lost art, to be honest. I don't think a lot of people do different variations of the same song on a single a lot anymore.
That's kind of why I wanted to package that way. As you know, from 90s Baby, I'm very much a a retro kid. Like,
yeah.
I'm always looking back, but trying to make it a part of what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And that's even in my production style. Like, I'll take a lot of people when they hear my music, they're like, even if I have like trap hi-hats or something, they're still like, I don't know, something 2000s about this.
Yeah, no, you definitely, and you don't have a lot of that in your sound, which is nice. Like, it's definitely, it's peppered in there.
Yeah.
But there was never a point where I was listening where I was like, oh, this feels super this way, this feels super that way.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that, like I said, you make your beats and it's noticeable because like they feel like they come from the same place.
Thank you.
Yeah. But actually, let's take a moment and let's talk about some of the new music you're working on.
For sure.
So, I assume you've got a couple things cooking for sure. How would you describe new things that are coming out?
You mean like what the new stuff is sounding like?
Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me. It's all fun right now. This last year, I've met a lot of cool music people who I didn't have in my life before, made really good friendships. And so it's amped up the fun in it because I feel like for a long time, as much as I love music, it just felt like a job. Like I was doing so much it's cool that I can do all those things.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, when I made 90s Baby, it was grueling because I had to write all the songs, had to make all the beats, record myself, then try to mix it to make it sound good. And like some of the mixes on there, like they're a little tough. But it was in the crib. I just got it done. And it was my first full length project. So I still stand by it. I love it. But that whole process after a while, I was like, oh my gosh. And so meeting all these people, like Wavy Joseph, he's one of my good friends. We both produce and sing and rap. So that's like, we can always bounce ideas off each other. My brother, RJB, another singer, producer. There's just a lot of people in the mix. Gemini.
Shout out Gemini.
Yeah, Gemini guitar. That's my Bluetooth brother. We write together a lot. And so I have all these different creatives now that are in my life, not just people who I know, like they're right here every day. We have group chats and we can send music to, we can send ideas to. And so all of my music right now just sounds like every day it feels like I'm trying to do the best.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like I'm just writing and right. Every day is like, okay, what we're doing today, top of the top. All the wordplay, all the this and that. And so everything sounds fun right now because it feels new again. It feels like I just started over and it's like the rebirth of my music. And so, I have definitely, I'm working on 2 separate solo projects right now, but I also have a couple group projects I'm working on.
Oh, okay.
And so there's a lot. But the common theme through all of them is just growth. Like the 2 projects I'm working on sonically sound way different from each other, but artistically so, because they're the way I want to release them, the one that sounds a little bit more like, I guess I'd say like trap soul, like more like a Party Next Door, Bryson Tiller kind of sound, a darker R&B. The strategic release for that one is a different way. And the other one I'm working on, which literally sounds like riding down the street with the top back. That whole project feels like that. But all of these things are in my range, and I'm working on all of them at the same time because I just have so many different styles I can choose from now. It's not just what I can make that day. Now it's what I can make that day, plus Gemini just sent me 5 guitar loops for no reason out of the blue. What can I do with that now? It's like music ADHD. I'm just like, what can I do? So it all just sounds new and fun. And that's really the best way I can describe it.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to all of that.
Yeah.
Now let's take a moment and let's step back. We zoomed in all the way to music that it hasn't even come out yet for you.
Yeah.
But I want to look at music as a whole. What are some of the things about music right now that you're enjoying?
Like this music that's out right now.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I really love the underground R&B scene right now. What's like mainstream R&B is pretty like consistent to what it was like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
With a few things that pop out, but there's a plethora of wonderful R&B out right now that people are like, R&B is dead. I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm like, get off the radio for a minute. Actually go online and see what people are doing. It's really good right now. So that's been one thing I've really been enjoying. I love that it seems like people are trying to, it's kind of like a bumping heads thing right now, but there's a good chunk of people that really want to bring back the genuine part of what music started as.
Yeah.
And I don't think that like whatever current music is has to lose out. I just think that authenticity is really what matters.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it has to be on like a Just Blaze beat for it to be real hip hop. You know what I mean, like it can still be on a Metro Boomin beat and still be hip hop. You know, and so I just like that. Excuse me, my throat. I like that. It seems like people are trying to get back to being authentic in the music. You know, there's obviously like the people that pop off going viral, and that's cool. Shout out to them. I would never tear anybody down for anything like that, but I just love that everything seems to be like coming to a point where it's like evening out. And if you don't see it on the TV or on the radio, it doesn't mean it's not there. And that's one thing I would say to anybody. It's like there's so much good music that still exists that like every time somebody sends me a new song I haven't heard before, and I'm like, who is this? What do you mean they've been making music for 5 years? And
right.
Like it's so much out there. And I just feel like, it's a good time.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's kind of a cool take on it because like R&B is one of the few genres that like has kind of retained its like puristness, but at the same time, you don't hear a lot of that narrative. Like, you know, like you get other genres in there, like jazz, everybody's going to be like, it's got to be this way to be jazz. Like, you know, like in like hip hop, it's kind of the blended stuff. Like country, it's like they're finally letting new sounds in. Yeah. But like R&B is one of those things where it's like, it's existed in its like consistent form for so long out loud. But like when you go to where R&B is happening, it's never that way. It's always introducing something. Like they have had synthesizers since long before like indie music ever did. They have always had live instruments popping off and a healthy blend of the two. They've got beats, they've got drums, they've got like kind of everything happening, and it's always existed because the center point has always been structured vocals, like, you know, having actual like singing happening, having people that can pop off, because like freestyling is a little bit harder than it is for a talented singer to just sing.
Absolutely.
And not to say that talented singing isn't hard in and of itself, but like there can be plenty of like hip hop and rap artists who they can be the nastiest with the pen, but they can't
deliver it
in that moment. Whereas if you are a talented singer, you're gonna be able to bring that to the table. So those moments kind of exist in a little more of a live aspect anyways. So it's cool that I think you nailed it by saying like the underground like scene existing on the internet now. I think that's finally permeated in a way where it's going to be more accessible. And once it blows up again, it's going to blow up so much bigger. And I think we're almost there.
I do too. And I think the reason why is a lot of the R&B acts from the past, like I feel like they kind of were like under the radar for a little bit, but just recently I've seen a resurgence of a lot of like those older songwriters and producers like coming back around to work with the newer artists. So like, you know, one of the guys I look to, I would love to work with. So if you ever see this, Troy Taylor, hit me up.
Hell yeah.
He's the guy who took Trey Songz on his wing when he first started, and like, you know, whatever he was singing, like he was like, you're not the greatest, but you got something. I want to nurture it. And he did that for so many other people. And he still currently goes find new R&B acts, and it still will like work with them, have them come to his place. Like, okay, you want to do this for real? Let's do that. And I've seen that from a few of those like OGs, like Jermaine Dupri working with new artists. Tank and Jay Valentine are still like, you know, talking to people, and they have their podcast R&B Money, where they bring in, you know, they get the stories that still happen in R&B and what was happening in the past and put it out there. And so there's people who are actually going to like bat for the genre to keep it alive and keep it fresh, but also to help it retain what made it great in the first place. And I think, like you said, where it's at is, I think it's in a good place. And I think that the internet, people finally realizing that it's so much of it still there. It's definitely right there in the cuff to be doing what it was doing. Because I remember like late 90s, early 2000s, R&B was like in theme songs for TV shows. Like it was just like, or even like some of the pop groups, you would go to the album and at least like 3 or 4 songs on those albums were definitely like technically R&B. You know?
It was starting to become very household. And I think that, you know, any genre, once it kind of like how electronic music kind of reached that point. Like you started getting electronic music in like State Farm commercials. You know what I mean? Like a good neighbor, Jake was did it there. But like it just I think every genre reaches kind of its apex, and then it kind of simmers down for a little bit because it either over permeates everything, or it's just it wants to stay in its purest form a little bit too much. And I think especially with like the introduction of like live instruments coming back, because that kind of went away for a little bit. Now everybody is like, oh wait, it's way cooler to have like actual instruments and not everything just set to this time. Like now that we're seeing that a lot again, I think that's going to give R&B kind of a new life, but it's going to come back with the one thing that made R&B like big performances so much more enjoyable, which was a little bit of that coordinated backing, because R&B, it's one of its strengths is in multiple vocalists supporting the main vocalist, and that's a little harder to pull off nowadays. So having a little bit of that like pre-designable back end that sounds good live, I think was really the thing that's going to like bring it back for a smaller performance to feel big.
I agree. I also think that the live instrumentation, the one thing that I notice in production and like just working on music now is when you have live instrumentation, like a guitar or actual piano and things like that, those things are naturally imperfect. So if you listen to a lot of older records, a lot of the songs like sound very in tune, and it's not just because like people are pitch perfect, it's because everything is imperfect. And it all just kind of harmonizes all together.
It all blends together. And that moment for like any variable, like you could just do like the guitar player could be like, no, I'm feeling this, I'm just going to go for it. Nobody knew I was going to go for it, but I'm going to go for it.
And now it's a moment.
And and then everybody's like, wait, no, he's going for it. We got to get on this, because this is way hotter than just what we were going to do anyways. And that's when you find those like variable moments where you're like, wait, even though this song's been out forever, we're going to do it that way every time. And now every time somebody hears that song, it's going to be done that way. And it's a whole new song where people are like, wow, before this was like this energy, now it's this energy. And we don't know what to expect.
I agree.
Yeah. But, we went down that one for a while. I really enjoyed that. But we've got one last question to go in this middle portion.
For sure.
And that's it's probably the densest question in the interview. But we talked a lot about your experience with music, the actions, the reaction, things like that. But when it's just you and the music one-on-one, what does the music give back to you?
The one thing that I've gotten from music that is huge to me is it's kind of like I don't know if you ever heard like people say like when you read something, like then you go back and read it again, you might get something else from it. For me, that's music. There's songs that I've known my whole life and I'm maybe not here for like 8 or 9 years, and it'll come on again. And then maybe I'll like hear a word that I thought was another word or something, and it changed the whole meaning of the whole line. Or maybe when I heard it, I hadn't experienced whatever they were talking about in life yet. And now when I hear it again, it's like, oh, that's so real. And so for me, it just is ever growing with me. And I think I love it because it almost gives you like a diary that you don't have to write. I can automatically like shuffle like all the music in my phone, and at least within like 10 minutes, there'll be like 3 or 4 songs that have played that have like hit on something I either was just going through, something I went through, something I'm happy about, something I'm sad about. But because, when you were growing up, they were just a song that you liked. Now they actually feel like embedded in your life. And so that's what I love about music, is that you can live with it. It can be a fun time, but it also can be healing. It also can be, educational. It could also walk you through some stuff that you're like, how do I get through this? And somebody's singing their heart out about it. So yes, I feel like for me, it's almost like music for me in general is like therapy. I use it in therapy in multiple ways. When I'm dealing with something I don't know how to talk about, I put it in a song. When I'm dealing with something that's hard, I play music, whatever. So in general, it's almost like just my audio therapy. It's just music is for me.
No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. But now let's go ahead and let's move on to some hypothetical questions. And for these, sky's the limit. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. So this first one's pretty straightforward, and you technically already answered it, but we're going to give you room for another one here. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive. Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Okay. I have Can I say two?
Yeah.
Okay, I got two because I did mention Troy Taylor. And that's just because like I just know that he's the kind of person that won't let you like fail.
Yeah.
If you bait it to him, he's gonna give you a hard time. But by the time you leave him, you're gonna be like, man, that dude was kicking my ass.
Yep.
But now can't nobody tell me nothing when I walk into a room because I know what I'm doing. So I would really love to work with him and just actually just work on being an artist, being better with the vocal, things like that I feel like I've been training myself up on, but like it never hurts to have a seasoned vet. And also he's one of the most amazing vocal arrangers I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if you know the song Sweet Lady by Tyrese. All the harmonies in that song, Troy Taylor. That's him singing them.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. That man is amazing. So that would be somebody I would want to work with in that level of just like get in his brain and like getting to learn the ins and outs of what he does when he's making a song. Outside of that, it would be my favorite artist, Eric Bellinger. He came to Portland in 2000. He came this year too, but I think when I went to go see him in 2018, and he impromptu did a meet and greet out of nowhere. Like it wasn't a part of the show.
Oh, damn.
So I got to get a picture with him, and it was one of the few times where, like, you know, they say like, don't meet your idols. It wasn't that at all. Like when I met him, he was just as dope as he seems.
I think if somebody's willing to do like just a surprise meet and greet, not a hey, pay extra $150, like you got to be all right.
Pretty cool.
You got to be all right.
Yeah. So he was dope, man. He was really nice to everybody. He even gave the mic to my girl at the time. We didn't get there more, but when she was like at the stage, he was like, "I see you singing." Like he was just a real cool dude, man.
Yeah.
And so, I would want to work with him because my songwriting, I discovered him in 2000 when I started working for that indie label when I was in college. When I found his music, I was hooked on it ever since. And nobody else really knew who he was where I was at because he wasn't really on the radio like that.
Yeah.
It was very much one of those online on the internet.
That's how I found him.
Yeah, he's popping in his city, but I didn't know nothing about him. I just saw a Twitter's link or something. I was like, R&B. I love R&B. Let's see what it's talking about. And the first album of his I heard was The Rebirth, and I was like stuck ever since because the way that he writes it, I think the reason why I align with it is because he uses so much like wordplay, syncopations, and rhythms almost as if he's a rapper, but he's still singing.
Yeah.
Like he's still giving you notes and runs and harmonies. But when you're listening to the words, you're like, he just had a double entendre. Like he's writing like he's trying to go head to head with a rapper.
Yeah.
And so I just align with that so much. And rightfully so. I mean, that he made most of his career as a writer, and now he's getting to enjoy like the artist part of his thing, which is awesome for him. But I would love to like sit down with him for multiple reasons. One, to like, you know, actually make something dope together. But two, to like test my iron. Like that's the guy that I want to work with, but I also want to see if I can like, you know, can my pen out pen yours, and you know, but out of love. When it's over and said and done, if they like he watched it, I'm like, all right, next time. Like that's the kind of thing I would want to do. And I feel like the energy he gives, he'd be down if we were in the same room. He's like, okay, let's see what you got.
Hell yeah.
And just go at it. So yeah, those are the two that I would want to be with. Troy Taylor, Eric Bellinger for sure.
I think that for sure. And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
If it was before last week, I would have said Magic 9 because we've been in circles, but we finally got the song together down now. But let me think that I haven't got a chance to. Honestly, I don't know because
you do work with a lot of people. Like I get that.
I've been moving around trying to get into every room with everybody as much as I can. And shout out to Rain Ezra and Views. They do.
Oh yeah, shout out Rain and Views.
They do these beat circles, and so a lot of the artists pop up to those. So a lot of the ones that I didn't get to work with, I've met them in those spaces. So off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody specific. But honestly, anybody who's serious about doing music and is a good person, likes to have a fun time, I would love to work with you because I'm full service. If you work with me, if you want me to just be there to do beats, I can do that. If you want me to be there to just do my verse or something, I can do that. So honestly, if you just love music and you're a good person, hit up Maurice.
Oh, yeah. Well, everybody, you know what to do. Add some people in the comments to see if we get some tracks going together.
Most definitely.
And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world. And you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power. It was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show. And it doesn't have to be a venue. It can be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
Where would I want to perform? I'd have to say if it was just anywhere and it'd have to actually be a venue, it'd probably be, I would turn like wherever the area is around the Gateway Arch in St. Louis. I would turn that into like just whatever, a festival, something.
Yeah.
St. Louis is way important to my heart. So that's where my dad currently lives now. His wife and my siblings that came from like them getting together, they were all from St. Louis. And outside of that, we lived in Belleville, Illinois, but everything you do in life, if you live there, is in St. Louis.
Yep.
So all of my memories, like my big memories of going to a theme park for the first time, going to a professional baseball, football game, meeting like NFL players for the first time, all those big things I could think of happen in St. Louis. You go to the mall, like there's malls in the Illinois area, but like you go to the mall in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So it's I almost like attributed kind of like living in like the surrounding areas of Portland, but like, you know, you would probably do all the big things in Portland.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it was like there. So the St. Louis area is just really important to me. I had a lot of firsts there in my life. I had a lot of family there. And yeah, I would just love to do something big in that city. I mean, dude, I was a little kid when the St. Lunatics popped up. Like, I got to see that.
Damn, that's a name I haven't heard in forever.
But I was there when that happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like, that's the thing that's cool to me. I just have a lot of love for that. There was a lot of artists that came out of there, and like, no matter the way I always say that, like, my siblings laugh at me, the ones that are actually from St. Louis, is I'm the most non-St. Louis person you will ever meet. Because even though I'm not technically from there, I got St. Louis hats. I think the St. Louis Arch might be on my phone right now as a screensaver. Like, I love that city. So I would love to do something big there, just right in front of the arch, bring out the whole city. Yeah, that'd be dope.
Oh yeah, that'd be right for sure. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
Ooh, that's a toughie. Just another album from somebody. That's tough for me. I feel the only reason why it's tough for me is because I feel like the only one that normally that answer would be, they ended up putting out an album, which is Usher, because that's like that's my all-time go.
Yeah,
like Eric Bellinger's my favorite artist, like since I was an adult. But like when I was 9, I told you I started writing songs. That was because I listened to Confessions, and I was like, oh my god, I want to make songs. But he put out an album last year, so I was like,
well, I did say they could have not put it out. They could have put out an album yesterday, and it would still count.
That's true.
You want another one?
Honestly,
Usher? Let's go.
Yeah, no, for real. Get back in the booth, dude. Let's get another one. Yeah, that's just my golden standard right there. When it comes down to it, no matter how many other influences I have, the one that always was like, from the first time I heard like an Usher song, it just was like, that's different.
Yeah.
Like even before the Confessions album, I think the 8701 album, with You Don't Have to Call, You Remind Me, all that on it, that was the first, like, when I was a kid, I remember just like having to sing along to all those songs and like I had to know the words. It's like, who is this guy? So yeah, that would probably be another Usher album, because every time he does anything, it's important to my heart, because it's like, I'm good to see my boy still making music.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I'd be all right with that as well.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up.
Sure.
What can we look forward to between now and the end of the year?
So I'm working on a project with Flexo Superb. I don't really know if we have like the full title yet, so we'll get together on that. But it's going to be like a volumes kind of thing. So we're going to do a couple tracks in one, and then, you know, write that out, and then do a couple more in the other one. And then I'm definitely going to be this month. So on the 13th, I'm performing at the Big Legrowski. I should be performing at stage 722 on the 26th.
Okay.
And There should be. I think I might be another Big Legroski show somewhere in between there this month too. So
isn't it called something else now? Didn't they rename it?
I think it was the same thing last time I went by, but I don't know. It could be something else. But if you know where that is,
y'all know where the Legroski is. And I think it's called Adept now. But don't quote me on that. I think I just remember seeing something recently.
It could be something else.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's where I'll be on those days. But music wise, I'm working on that joint project. I'm not sure when Briggsy is dropping, but I know for sure we're trying to get this project done before summer. So I can only assume or imagine that like that's going to be out sometime soon too. If not soon, at least like we're going to start putting out like things from it soon, because we've got a lot of stuff in the tank, but we definitely are still churning away, trying to get as many good things we can have before we shave off the fat. So those joint projects are going on. I'm probably going to put out a couple EPs. I don't think I'm going to do any full-length projects this half of the year. Next year, I just say stay posted, because I might say this now, but I'm very impulsive when it comes to music, and that's why I do EP drops, because like they help me put out. So I make a lot of songs. Anybody who's in my circle will tell you, if they send one song to like, this is what I did this week, I usually send back like 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5.
Like, here's a whole album.
Like it's just, so doing EP drops really does help me like get, keep moving and keep working forward. So there might be a couple of things, but the only thing for sure I know is like me and Flexo Superb are dropping, and me and Briggsy are trying to get this project together so that we can drop that too. And then there'll be singles. So there's going to be singles. I'm working on setting it up to where I do like not necessarily music videos, but like, reels and visuals to just singles for the rest of the year. And I want to get to doing them. I want to say maybe middle of the year, once I get all these other projects like mixed and mastering to that point. I'm going to start doing them out at least maybe once a month. So that's the plan for that. Just be looking for a consistent every month. At least a song is going to be coming out. And then I might randomly be like, you like that? Here's a 4-pack. But definitely consistent music is going to be coming out. That single is going to be coming out definitely this summer. That's my summer baby. So that song and those different versions of that single is absolutely the thing I'd say to look forward to the most. It might not be streaming yet, but like I told you where I'm going to be performing, come out and see us perform active. Come get active, because it's a vibe.
Well, definitely looking forward to all of that. For this next one, go and look straight at the camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
So it is Maurice. You can find me on Instagram at Maurice, MOREESE 94. That's the best place you can hit me up at if you want to get in touch with music. You can also email me at mjmusicmixing@gmail.com if you want to send files, if you want to send folders, because as much as I love to create my music, it's so nice when I have other beats to write to as well. It takes the load off me, makes me less stressed. So, if you want to help out with that, that's cool too. I want to say my Twitter is the same. It's Maurice94. So MOREESE 94. And that's the best way to find me.
And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Let me just go down the gang. So shout out to my Sunday Sessions crew. That's Gemini, Views, Rain Ezra, Wavy Joseph, and RJB. Shout out to Flexo Superb again. That's my brother. Shout out to Briggsy, big time, Mr. TME, and Fly. Shout out to Fly. Who else? J Baby. She's out here killing it, booking shows, going crazy, and she's good people. I think that's what I got for now, man. There's a lot of people that's gonna be like, bro, you can shout me out, but it's all love for everybody.
You're working with a lot of people, and I'm sure they know that you know.
Yeah. It's all love.
All right, and with that being said, we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm gonna steal the camera for just a second.
Sure.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary and Ronald's Records. Make sure to click the link below and go check them out. Guarantee you're going to like them. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation. But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know. That's when you think everybody should know.
What's a thinker?
And you've already thrown out some deep cuts and some like not like big forward names. So I'm definitely kind of curious what you're going to bring with this one.
Okay, some deep. Let me see. Okay, this one is gonna be random, but just bear with me, y'all. I think you definitely find that on Apple. I don't know about everywhere else, but well, actually, no, it's everywhere. Just the way. Anyway, a name that definitely like you've heard, but probably don't hear a lot of anymore. Even though he just put out a nice video. It was like last week. Marcus Houston. He is like quietly one of the greatest vocalists like that people don't give credit to. His falsetto is amazing. His runs are amazing, and it just kind of like nobody talks about it. But I think it was 2022 or 2021, one of those two. He put out an album, and then he did a deluxe version of it that had basically all his greatest hits on the second half. And that the album that he put out was great, but the order that he put his greatest hits in on it, like you could literally just play that in that second half of that album is amazing because it shows you like all the dope stuff that he's done up until this point. And no matter how you feel about like, people getting older and falling off, whatever, that body of work that he put together for those songs, it's undeniable. You get all his vocals, you get all the swag that he had back in the early 2000s, but you also get like the emotional songs, the party songs. It's everything that I think made him have the success he had, even though it was quiet as kept once he started doing movies and stuff. But before that, there's a reason why he was able to sell like he did, why Immature, the group, when he was, a kid, why they were successful. Because that man is that man. Like, he's doing his thing. And so that's one of my, like, people don't hear that name as much when they come up in, what do you think about? We think about R&B. But I've been a fan of him since Immature, since he was Batman.
Hell yeah.
Before he was going by his real name. So I always say, I think the album is called Me. So Me by Marcus Houston, the deluxe version. Listen to the first half too, because it's cool. He's got some good stuff on it. You can see what he's been doing since he's been older. But that second half, if you don't remember why he's relevant to even be putting music out anymore, listen to that second half and it'll let you know, okay, never mind. MH was cooking this whole time in the background.
Hell yeah. Well, that's a super solid rec. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. This has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Maurice.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap. This is not a podcast. This is a show. Keep jamming.